Council meeting for July 11th, 2023 to order. As we gather, we are reminded that the town of Bonnyville is situated on Treaty 6 land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and is the traditional homeland and home to First Nation and Métis people today. We respect the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nation, Métis, and all First People of Canada whose presence continues to enrich our community. Before us, we have an agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
We have one in camera item, your worship, personnel.
Okay. Excellent. A motion to accept the agenda as amended, please. Councillor Kushner.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll make motion that we accept the agenda as amended.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the council meeting minutes from June 23rd, 2023. Are there any additions or deletions to the minutes as presented? Seeing none, just a motion to accept as presented, please. Councillor Sharoon?
Madam Mayor, I will move that we accept the council meeting minutes of June 23rd, 2023.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. All right, we will move into MPC. Motion to move into MPC, right? Yeah. Councillor McAvoy?
I will move us into MPC, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Just let me get that agenda. All right, we will call MPC to order.
2023.
Before us, we have an agenda for the MPC meeting for July 11th, 2023. Any additions or deletions to that agenda? Seeing none, a motion to accept as presented. Councillor Blanchette?
I'll move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. All right, next we have the adoption of the meeting minutes from March 14th, 2023. Were there any additions or deletions? No. Councillor Johnson?
I'll move that we accept the minutes.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. All right, first up, we have a request for decision. We have a development permit, 23-D0054. Who's taking care of this one? Hi, Joe.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've received a development permit application for a CCAN structure located at the 5704 52nd Avenue. Now, typically, the accessory structures are located in the rear of the property, with setbacks being 1 meter from the property lines. This commercial zoning is C3, so their front yard setback is supposed to be 6 meters, so he's putting these structures within the front yard setback of the, it's just because, and it's doing this because of, he's using the north lot. I don't know if you can pull up this, what, the third page in? No. He's using the north end part of the, where the CCAN is where he wants to put this structure, but he's accessing from the south lot on 5701 50th Ave. So he's using it like it's the rear of the lot, but it's technically the front of the lot. So we're applying, asked him to apply for the variance of 83.3%. And then when we were going through it, we noticed by adding the second structure, he's exceeding the 40% maximum site coverage. So that variance has also been included into the document. And in 2017, there was nearly an identical development where the applicant was using the front of the lot as the rear, and the MPC reviewed the information and had approved the development at that time. Desired outcomes, we'd like to have the development permit approved with the conditions attached.
Thank you. Are there any questions for administration at this time? Councillor McAvoy?
Yes, just through to Joe. One of the conditions is no flammable or combustible storage.
We have that on any of our CCANs.
What do you mean by flammable and combustible?
Anything that can burn.
So only metal.
So no combustible fluids, propane tanks of that?
Yeah, then they should adjust it so that it is flammable and combustible liquids and gases,
Okay.
because otherwise you can't put anything in there that's paper, cardboard, wood.
That works for you?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Are there any other questions or comments on this development permit? Councillor Kushner?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I drove by there today. I mean, this is the exact same as the one in, you said 2016?
2017, yeah. it was
2017.
For TNT.
There's no entrance from 52nd Avenue. That is the back of their lot. As far as the using too much of that lot, well, they've got 5 different lots there, so they've got lots of other land that they can use. So I don't have any problems with granting that. And I'd make a motion that we grant permit 23D0054 with the added
The amendment.
amendments from Councillor McAvoy.
So with the conditions laid out and the amendment made by Councillor McAvoy. Is that clear for council? All right. All in favor of the motion? Thank you. Sorry, I didn't ask. Did anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. I know, sorry. Hey, better late than never. Okay. Where is my, sorry, you guys. I can't find my agenda. All right, next, request for decision, development permit 23-D0055.
I will be dealing with that one again. We had received a complaint regarding a home business, Come Let's Sew, located at 3608 42 Avenue. And during the review process, it was noticed there was a lapse in the development permits we issue yearly for home occupation businesses. Home occupation development permits are issued for a 12-month period and are renewed with the business license typically at the beginning of the year. This yearly review allows the municipality to notice any changes in use or changes in intensity of use with the property, so that if, in the opinion of the development authority, the home occupation business outgrows the location, it would be best suited for a commercial location. I've attached the home occupation definitions, and as there's people coming to the residence, it would be considered a major home occupation. I've also included, I talked to the applicant, she would like to run 2 sessions, fall and winter, consisting of 12 weeks each. Each class session runs for about an hour in length, 2 sessions per day. There's about a 30-minute break between her sessions to allow for the children to be picked up or dropped off. There'll also be adult classes offered once a week in evenings. And the applicant had hosted classes for adults with disabilities. And when asked to commence these classes again, these sessions would have to about 6 students and 3 support staff. And then she would also like to continue with the summer camps out of the location. The homeowner would like to continue offering services and applying for 8 persons at a time. Previously, it was limited to 6. And that's what was part of the other reason we had noticed the changes is with intensity. It appears all the courses being held in the attached garage, and it appears that 50% of the attached garage, I mean, for the classroom, and our land use bylaw limits 50% of an area of an attached or detached garage to be utilized for home occupation. Though the nature of the home occupation does require significant space for the storage of materials, table space for the machines and materials, therefore the applicant would require a variance on the area used for a home occupation as well. Another shortcoming in the area is parking. There's only the 2 on-site parking stalls, and it's located at the end of a dead-end street. it's only the second lot in. So at times, I can see it possibly getting a little congested, but only for a short period of time. In summary, we mailed out 24 letters. 33% of them responded, or 8 people responded. 33% of them were for the, 33.3% responded. 91.7% were for the development, and there was about 8.3% of the people that responded were against the development. It's the recommendation that the Municipal Planning Commission approve the development permit with the attached conditions.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Are there any questions or comments on this development permit? Councillor Sharoon?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through to administration and through the home occupant for the home business. With the increase in traffic, I just want to make a couple of comments. I know this is a very beneficial service that this business is providing to our residents. I guess to bond and bridge the relationships between the neighbors, you know, and respectful to everyone, the home occupation should perhaps educate the children not to walk on other people's lawns, et cetera, because that was part of the complaints. And the other one there is for the people that are parking there and waiting for their children, perhaps, you know, not to congest everything, that they leave for the hour and then come back and pick up their kids. So just working with everybody to make this a good neighborhood and keeping up with the valuable service that our community so needs.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sharoon. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Blanchette?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just through administration, on the conditions listed, number 16 indicates hours for customer vehicle trips. Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then in the background information that you provided, and you just mentioned this, adult classes once a week are offered Wednesdays from 7 to 8:30. So are you requiring her to alter, or the applicant to alter those hours?
Yes, I would have to. I did, the number 16 was our standard home occ note.
So yes, she will be required.
Yeah, it will have to be revised.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councillor McAvoy?
I'll just chime in with a comment here. I think this is a viable business, and as Councillor Sharoon stated, it's good for the community. However, with any home business, there does come a point where it's no longer appropriate as a home business. And I think that's something that will have to be closely monitored in our annual reviews over the next year or two to see that it stays within the scope of a major home business and not something that should be looking for alternate location. Comment?
Yeah, thank you. I guess through to Bill, because I'm not too sure. My question is, so this business owner did not pay for the development permit since 2021, so that's 3 years of not paying. 2 years, this would have been the third year. Or second year. What's the process for us to go back, because they were obviously running above the conditions that were already set out? So I guess my question is, how do we as a municipality go forward in monitoring that to ensure that they're being paid? And then to Councillor McAvoy's point, to ensure that this business is running within the conditions that it's set out?
Well, thank you. That's a great
Throwing that out
question, Your Worship. I'm going to forward this over to Ted, because this is something him and Joe have been working on. He can answer that for you for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. So, Madam Mayor, this would be, so the business licensing, the development permit applications are, for these types of uses, are predicated on the business licensing. Every year, the applicants are made to check in with us, with administration. And as Joe stated, we require them to check in with us on changes of use or changes of intensity of use. In this case, it's a change of intensity of use. They're not changing the use, they're changing the intensity of use. So in answer to your question, we would have to reach out to the applicant and kindly ask them that they've been operating without the required permits for a period of a couple of years, and probably approach council and at that point and charge them back, charge them for those 3 years. In this case, I believe the applicant would probably be able to pay, or we could arrange something in the form of remuneration to the town. And the reason I say that is because this applicant has been in good standing for years, since 2012. It has been, I think the reason was that COVID was the reason, and there was just for whatever reason it was just missed at that point. So I don't think it'd be too tough of an ask for the administration to reach out to the applicant to recoup those fees.
So just to chime in on what Ted's saying, Your Worship, every year we revisit the home occupations, and we ask the applicants to give us confirmation that nothing's changed in terms of the permit conditions that were granted and that sort of thing. We're not sure how it got to the point where this one went 3 years without her redoing the paperwork, but we've put some new checks and balances in place where our planning and development folks are going to be closely comparing notes with our business licensing folks, and hopefully that doesn't happen in the future. And it's looking like Joe has a comment.
The last one she did was in 2021, so it's only 2022 and 2023 that wasn't applied for.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just want to ensure that, you know, for all our other business owners, whether they're a home business or, you know, they're have, you know, a location on our main street, when they, you know, have all their permits paid up and we have somebody who's not, I think it's important for us as a municipality to take note of that. And then they are running a business that is not within the conditions. I think, again, I agree with Councillor McAvoy's comments that, you know, maybe the intensity is getting a little too much for a home business. I think one thing also that she didn't mention, and I can't remember where it was mentioned, is that she also does bookings for birthday parties. So, you know, there's also a lot more going on there than what is listed here. So the traffic volume, I don't think that those who are opposed to it, or I think their concerns are valid, and I would agree with them, but I would highly recommend to this business owner that maybe if, you know, I hope she gets bigger and, you know, possibly looks for a better location as she gets bigger, as the community supports her. So. Okay. Councillor Krishner, sorry.
Yep, just one more.
Yeah,
one more
please.
comment. Was their business license, has it been paid through the years?
When I was talking with the applicant, it was my understanding it was a error on our end. She did pay for the business license, but there was no follow-up development paperwork that came with it. So our department never knew if the business was still operating or not because we didn't get that piece of paperwork.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council, I guess we are looking for a decision. Councillor Johnson? Sorry.
With the recommendation that administration has laid out, I would feel comfortable making the motion for this with the attached conditions, but I agree with Councillor McAvoy and Madam Mayor about closely monitoring it to make sure that other ratepayers that do have some opposition in the area, to make sure that their concerns are heard and watched. So with that, I will make the motion that we approve 23-D005 development permit application 035035-23-D005 with the attached 16 conditions.
And with the change to number 16 on the condition, the change in times.
That is correct. Okay. Yes, thank you.
All right. Does council have any questions on this motion? Councillor Kushner?
No questions, but just a comment. Trying to get anything sewed up in this town is ridiculously hard. So it is very much something we need. So well, I know, but that's what I'm saying, right? You can't get anything. Nobody knows how to sew anymore. So I think it's a great idea. We just got to keep, like you said, keep an eye on them, make sure that they're doing the right thing. So I just wanted to speak in favor of it as well.
Thanks for threading that eye. Okay. All right, so a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next we have a request for decision on development permit 23-D0057.
That'll be me again, Your Worship. We've received a application for a change of use from a single-family residential to a group home for youths. The property is within an R1 single-family residential district where group homes are listed as a discretionary use. Our current land use bylaw defines a group home as group home means the use of one dwelling unit as a care facility licensed by the provincial authority to provide room and board for not more than 6 residents with physical, mental, social, or behavioral problems that require professional care, guidance, supervision. A group home may include to a maximum of 6 of any combination staff, residents that require care, residents not requiring care. The character use of the occupants to live together as a single housekeeping unit and use common kitchen. This use does not include boarding or lodging houses. The applicant, Faith and Roots Inc., would operate the home for youth in our area that need care for a home. They aim to house up to 4, this is an amendment, it says 6, but they want to change it to 4, youths at the home with 24-hour supervision always. The home will be only taking youths that are under the age of 18, and the ratio of care workers is 4-to-1. There is a screening process in place for the youths that will be going to the dwelling, and is dependent on behaviors, mental health, physical limitations, and they will not be accepting any youth with any criminal records. Adjacent landowner notifications were mailed out. There was a total of 40 notifications letter went out. There were 16 responses that came back. And if I summarized all the responses, 81% of the concerns were concerned about increased crime in the area. About 63% of the respondents were concerned with increased traffic. 69% of the respondents were concerned with disruption of a quiet neighborhood. There was 13% that were concerned about a drop in property values, and 13% of the responses were objections with just no reason given. So therefore, disruption to the quiet area, crime, and neighborhood safety are the main concerns of the residents that had responded. Faith and Roots has desired outcome is the Faith and Roots Inc. has a positive outcome to the application process and will be allowed to operate the group home at this location in our community, as our community could use this type of service. It is our recommendation that the Municipal Planning Commission approve the development permit with the conditions given. Also, I'd like to note that with the applicants are here this evening, if there's any questions for them, and we also do have some of the people that were against it in the lobby here if we need.
All right, thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. I guess we'll first start. Are there any questions for administration at this time? Councillor Blanchette?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question. In regards to the 40 letters that were sent out to the adjacent landowners, what was provided to those landowners as information? Is it everything that we were provided as well?
No. We just provided there was a group home going to be going to the area. We do that. We want to engage the residents to ask the questions to see, well, what's going on, what's in the neighborhood, what's it all involved.
Okay, thank you. I have one further question. So in the definition of group home in the background information, it mentions this may include a foster home. I don't know in comparison to what this care facility, what the comparison is between a foster home and this type of care facility. Maybe that'll be a question I ask the applicants. But does this mean that any family operating a foster home in our community is also to obtain a permit?
No.
Okay, thank you.
The group home is for non-related people, but if you're fostering, you're taking in like 1 or 2 children, typically.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for administration? No? Okay, I think we're gonna open it up to the floor, because I think council does have some questions. We do have the proponents in council chambers, if you don't mind coming up forward. I would caution council, this is a fact-finding exercise. Please keep your questions related to understanding more about the business and a little bit more about the business owners, please. So I'll open up the floor. Any questions? Let's start. Councillor Sharoon?
I'll start. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Through to the Faith and Roots owners. I have 2 questions. Have you tried this in any other communities? And if so, what were the successes, and or what could be improved on?
Okay. In terms of any other communities, we haven't, this will be our pilot project. This will be the first community we actually run in. So with that being said, we have approached other communities, as into Elk Point. We went through the same process that we're going through now, but unfortunately their decision was a no. But I'm sure it's a lot to the other landowners as well, the homeowners. They're having the same questions as into, is our crime rate gonna go up? Is there gonna be problems? So I guess the answer is no, we haven't ran. This is our pilot project here, so.
Okay, thank you. And the second question that I have is, I'll use the women's shelter in Coal Lake as an example. It's in a concealed area. It's not a public area. It's not a well-known area. With this location being public, would you, reading through all the landowners' concerns, 81% of the responses were concerned about increased crime in the area. So this being a public location, do you foresee any of the parents coming and disrupting the process? Like, that would be a concern if, they want to come in and I'm not too familiar with how exactly that group home situation works. So, would that feed into that 81% concern?
No. When the children are placed into our home, it's private. The parents don't know where they are. And if there are meetings with the parent and they get one-on-one with supervision, the child is picked up first and then the parent. So no, the parents do not know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Councillor McAvoy?
Just a couple of questions. Basically, looking at this is a family with 4 kids. Is the size of the scope of this thing. So I'm not worried about the traffic volume and all the rest of it. It comes back to the primary concern, which Councillor Sharoon touched on, the 81%. Can you just explain a little bit about, you are licensed by Alberta Health Services, or will be?
Will be.
Okay. And just describe the placement process. Where are these youth coming from? And what's the screening process and everything that Alberta Health Services goes through before they place them with your care?
How they're placed could be your neighbor who has children and they've just made poor choices. They were reported on and the government got involved. It could be anybody. And then for them to come into our home, it would have to be a fit for our home, depending if we have children there already or not. Like he had said, it's based on their behavioral needs, their disabilities, whether they have some physical or mental or not. Is there anything else?
Like as it's stated in, I don't know if you got the PowerPoint or not, the screening process obviously will be determined by me and Kelly.
Yeah.
We will not be accepting the troubled youth that come out of the detention centers or wherever they're coming from. Our target is mainly to go for the children that are literally just coming out of their homes, as Kelly was saying, and being brought to us. And upon that acceptance, we will ask the social worker, do they have a past criminal record or anything that might trouble the area, right? So.
Okay. No, thank you. It's, you know, the last one we did similar to this was a drug rehabilitation program, which is a whole different,
Right.
a whole different scenario.
Yeah.
This is, I guess in my view, just a very formalized foster home.
Basically, yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Thank you.
Councillor Langridge, make sure your mics are on, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for coming to answer our questions tonight. There was, I know everyone had a few, but just a couple of questions on my part. I'm familiar with a few different group homes in our region. Now, thoughts on location. A lot of them are set in rural settings instead of the urban settings. Did you guys have any thought on if out of town was better than in town, or?
We did look at that. There's ups and downs to each. You know, in my eyes, we're treating this as a home, of like a close-knit home, as a family-based home. So what better than to get the kids involved with the communities? And this is that integration where we're integrating the kid with the community, other than maybe they didn't come from that. Maybe they were, you know, isolated. We don't know their circumstance, but to us, why not make them a part of the community, give them that feeling of, hey, you know, we're a part of this just as much as anybody else is here, right? Just like a family. So we're shooting for that home feeling to them, because they're coming out of these homes. We don't know like what their troubles were, but we want them to feel as comfortable and loved. And, you know, coming in here, we want to treat them like, hey, you can count on us. We're going to help you for your time being here. But so.
Okay, no, thank you for that. My second question is, so again, just more of an education piece for me. A lot of the group homes that and youth homes that I'm familiar with are run by the First Nations, and a lot of them are on either in the First Nation or other words. Are there a lot of different, because I kind of look at this as a private group home kind of, is there a big need for the private side versus, you know, because a lot of the First Nation group homes like to keep them to ensure that they're still being instilled their culture and so on and so forth?
Okay, for that answer, I have the greatest answer for you. I come from a cultural background myself. I was born and raised in Bonnyville area, but also in Kihewin. My family's from Kihewin, and I have a lot of family here in Bonnyville as well. So with that being said, the cultural aspect, I have so much teachings that I want to pass on to other people, as well as I pass on to my children. So that being said, the culture's there. That's why we said in our slogan that culture is a big part of it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Johnson?
Hi there. I do have one question. So if a child gets placed in your home and once they're out of the situation they're in and then they start to develop behavioral issues and that, how is that dealt with? Is it something that if it goes too far, do they leave the home? Do you work with them? What's the plan with that? I'm just trying to understand.
So right now, primarily, we're trying to deal with Tribal Chiefs Services in Kihewin. And with their programming, they have counselors, everything set aside for stuff like that to arise. So they do come in and they do monitor our facility, and they will come in and do visits, and then they take the kids out and they take them for their, I guess they have a play therapy session they go to. So through that, they analyze the child and they figure out what's wrong, and I think the counseling and everything falls through them. Pretty sure that's the way it works, that's the way we're told. So we wouldn't have to worry ourselves about the counseling, it would be going right through Tribal Chiefs.
Any other questions? Councillor Krishner?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. This one would be for you, Kelly. You have 25 years of experience with this. Is it in group homes like this previously?
It's youth group homes, adult facilities, people with disabilities. I've gone through the Edmonton Public School Board with children with very high behaviors. So my expertise, I guess, is very wide, yes.
So in your experience, there was a lot of questions that were brought forward by residents. Have you had any experiences in some of the group homes that you were in that would touch on some of their concerns?
As into crime in the area, I guess repetition is key for anybody. If a child comes into the home that has not displayed any behavioral issues, and then all of a sudden there's behavioral issues, then obviously there's an underlying issue, which then the play therapy comes into play. That is something that we would then document and try to redirect anything to continue.
Okay, thank you.
So you will be licensed with AHS?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's, you don't get licensed through AHS. You have a licensing agent that deals specifically for group homes in the province. And that would be, I believe for this North region, is Greg Wepler.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you would be able to host a client that would be referred through the North region, like the social services?
Yeah.
I understand. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions from council? Councillor Schrin?
Maybe one more question through to administration. So group homes are listed as a discretionary use within the single-family home area. Now, what type of monitoring will take place on this? And, if things do not, work out as planned, what are the repercussions later? Do we revert it back to, or is, once this is done, this is final and we continue on and it would have that designation?
Councillor, that's a great question. The answer is twofold. I'll give the first part, and then maybe the applicants can give the second part. In the case of a development permit being granted on a discretionary basis, if they were found in the future to be operating outside the terms and conditions of the development permit, the permit could be canceled. So in the case of, but you mentioned monitoring, so we will certainly monitor to, if we issue a permit for a clothing store at a nightclub opens up, obviously that's something that's a bad example, but something contrary to the terms of a development permit that we would certainly investigate. In this case, I think the conditions are pretty clear, and the applicant can speak to how they're going to be monitored and how they're going to be required to comply as per their the licensing or whatever. But in our case, yes, we certainly will, monitor from afar as per our responsibility.
I'll just touch on what Bill was saying there. Yeah, we are constantly being monitored by, obviously, through tribal chiefs and through AHS as well. And yeah, Kelly, go ahead.
The fire inspector, we're also going to have licensing that will be coming in and out of the home unannounced. We are going to have counselors that come to the home unannounced as well. I do believe you guys take a visit once a year. And there's also going to be staff on site 24 hours a day, as well as video cameras on the outside.
So to touch on what Kelly's saying, the staff ratio is 4 youth to 1 staff member, so it will be always under that 6 people in the residency at all times. But as she was saying, there's 24-hour staffing, and there will be there won't be any sleep shifts, so everybody that's in the home will be awake at all times.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Councillor Langridge?
Just a little bit more of a comment, Madam Mayor. I did do a little bit of homework on some other youth group homes in other communities. And there was one that actually came up in North Battleford that I'm familiar with. And they had the exact same issues they talked about back in 2019, where they had the exact same concerns from residents and neighbors. And two of them stuck out that and they just renewed the license for another 5 years, but it was traffic, which they saw no uptick in traffic because it's similar to a single-family dwelling. And the other was property value, and they have not seen any decrease in their property values. So just a little bit of education and homework that I pulled up this afternoon, so.
Excellent.
Are there any other questions for Faith and Roots? Thank you so much for being here and for your time and answering all of our questions this evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council.
All right. Oh, okay. So we are looking for a motion on this development permit. Councillor Blanchette, yes? Oh.
We have a say?
Well, we did ask for responses against, and they were clearly identified. Yeah. Did you have anything to add, Nestor, I guess?
No.
Would you like to have?
Like, it was all in the letters?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a full package here. So all the letters that were received and all the comments were received. Council does have everything that administration received, and it was summed up just as Joe had explained, how many we received, the reasons, the feedback, what the concerns were. So we do have a detailed outline of what the concerns were from. Yes, thank you. Okay, so council, we are looking for a motion on this development permit, please. Councillor Blanchette?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just make a final comment here before I make the motion. In the information that was provided by the applicants, they say this home will be operated no different than any family home, and that stuck out to me because based on everything we've reviewed, I agree. I don't expect anyone to answer this when I ask it, but what's the difference between this group home, staffed by 2 adults, serving 4 youth, and a 2-parent family and 4 kids living in the neighborhood? I really don't see the difference, to be honest with you. So with that, I will gladly move the staff recommendation that MPC approve development permit application 23-D0057 with the 4 conditions listed in the staff rec.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Blanchette. Are there any questions on the motion? No, I'll call the motion. All in favor? Opposed? This motion is carried. Thank you. All right, thank you, Council. Let's have a motion to move out of MPC, please. Councillor McAvoy? All in favor? Carried. All right, back to regular meeting. Okay, bylaws, governance and priorities committee bylaw.
I can speak to that, Your Worship. Administration was recently tasked with the idea of establishing a forum, a public meeting venue of a council committee, the purpose of which would be to discuss governance issues, review proposed bylaws, matters of policy, receive updates on current projects administration is working on, and other matters of interest to council. The attached bylaw has been created, which, if passed by council, would establish a governance and priorities committee. This committee, comprised of all of council, would be a permanent standing committee meeting on a monthly basis. It's suggested the 3rd Tuesday of each month, starting at noon, would be a good time. And the meetings would be research and information sessions held in a less formal atmosphere than a regular council meeting. The meetings will be open to the public to attend and observe. The committee would not have the power to make decisions, but instead could choose to make recommendations to council, refer items to administration or another council committee, and receive reports and also entertain delegations by invitation. The attached bylaw outlines the composition and duties of the committee, and if passed, it would come into effect after third reading. Accordingly, administration is recommending that council pass all three readings of bylaw 1551-23, the Governance and Priorities Committee.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for administration on this bylaw? No? All right, so we are looking for three readings, we agree. So looking for a first motion to provide first reading. Councillor Blanchette?
I'll move first reading of bylaw number 1551-23, Governance and Priorities Committee.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Second reading, please. Motion for second reading. Councillor Johnson?
I'll move second reading of bylaw 1551-23.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And a motion to proceed to third reading, please. Councillor Kushner.
I'll make the motion that we proceed to third reading for bylaw 1551-23.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And a motion to provide third and final reading, please. Councillor Schroen.
I will move on the bylaw 1551-23, Governance and Priorities Committee bylaw.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
That bylaw has been carried. All right, next we have the Kihiwin Cree Nation powwow sponsorship request. Who's doing that? Janine? Yep.
Attached is a sponsorship request and letter from Cindy Tatusis from Kihiwin Cree Nation requesting funding support for the annual Kihiwin Cultural Powwow. This is a 3-day event that will be held from July 28th to 30th of this year. The amount of funding requested for this event is $7,525, which would equate to the 2 junior categories listed below. In 2022, the town donated $1,000, which is included in 2023 budget. Administration is recommending that council approve a donation in the amount of $1,000 for the Kihiwin Cree Nation annual powwow.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Just to add to what Janine's saying, Your Worship, council passed a motion last year to donate an annual amount of $1,000 per year to the powwow event and have that as a standing donation amount, and that's why it's included in the 2023 budget.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kushner?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. In their paperwork that they came in, they said that how was the town of Bonnyville contribution recognized, and then said yes, that they have, and it was recognized at $500. So if we decide to go forward with this, can you make sure that they recognize $1,000, not $500? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Blanchette?
On that note, we also, if I recall, supported the gala, their fundraising gala at Christmas time. I believe several of us attended that one as well. So it was actually more than $1,000 in 2022.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I have a comment. I don't know. I don't agree that, you know, if we don't want to fund the full 7,000, that we should only donate 1,000. We continuously talk about building respectful relationships with our regional partners, and you know, and I think they go above and beyond, and we see Kihiwin residents go to our schools, they do all their retail, all their commerce here. And I think this would be a great opportunity for us to continue supporting them. Considering that they went out of their way to have a host hotel here in Bonnyville. So we know already that they're filling up one of our hotels. These people who are attending, what did they say? To bring in over 3,000 observers daily, you know, possibly are going to stay in the town of Bonnyville, are going to eat here, all the usual. I would like to ask council if you'd be willing to entertain perhaps even just doing one of the categories, even if we did the 3,200. You know, we don't have to do both. I know they're asking for that, but would council be interested in entertaining that thought? I'll put that out there. Councillor Schrin?
Madam Mayor, you know, this is, I do agree with what you're saying. We've just finished 6 months of our fiscal year, and we do have a lot of other user groups in the next 6 months coming over to see us. So perhaps that could be a consideration for next year, and they make a presentation to council like the other user groups if we were to do a substantially higher donation. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Okay. Well, we are looking for a motion. Would anybody be interested, or I can do it?
Based on that information, Madam Mayor, I'll move that council approve a donation of the amount of $1,000 for the Keehewan Cree Nation powwow.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. All right, so request for decision, the Bonnyville Friendship Center letter of support.
I'll speak to that one as well, Madam Mayor. Administration received a letter from Janet Gobart, Director of Operations with the Bonnyville Friendship Center, requesting a letter of support for the Government of Canada Indigenous Shelter and Transitional Housing Initiative grant application. If successful, the grant funds will be used to purchase property, build and operate a women's holistic haven in Bonnyville. The letter of support is required before July 17th, 2023 application deadline. Administration is recommending that council provide a letter of support to the Bonnyville Friendship Center for their Government of Canada Indigenous Shelter and Transitional Housing Initiative grant application.
Thank you. Any questions for administration? No? All right, looking for a motion, please.
I will give you that motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Thank you.
Provide the letter of support.
All right, thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Request for decision, letter of support, the Bonnyville Senior Citizen CIP grant.
I'll speak to that one as well. Administration received a letter from Sherry Hennessy, President of the Bonnyville Senior Citizens Society, requesting a letter of support for their application of the Alberta CIP Operation Grant to help with increasing insurance costs and the day-to-day utility costs. Administration is recommending that council ratify the letter of support provided to the Bonnyville Senior Citizens Society for their application of the Alberta CIP Operation Grant.
Okay, a motion just to ratify the letter that we had already sent out, please. Councillor Langridge?
I'm prepared to make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Thanks. All in favor? Carried. All right, committee reports. We will start with Councillor Johnson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All right, June 28th, I attended the grand opening of Inland Steel, welcoming them to the town. Very impressive operation they have there, and very excited to see them grow. July the 1st, I took part in Canada Day, including pancake breakfast, opening ceremonies at the museum, parade, and then the short party in the park. I'd like to thank all the sponsors and everyone who did participate in all of the events that day. And I'd also like to give a big shout out to Public Works and the entire town staff. We couldn't host Canada Day with all their hard work and taking time out of a holiday to provide a wonderful event for the town. So thank you to the entire staff. And I would also request administration next year to please send a calendar invite to Mother Nature so she doesn't mess with our party in the park next year. July the 6th, I attended the grand reopening of the MD Shaw House. July the 7th, I attended the Bonnyville Wellness Coalition Fitness Trail launch, and then we had a committee, events committee meeting later on that day, and that does it for me.
Thank you. Go ahead, Neil.
I will just echo most of what Councillor Johnson said. The Inland Steel Open House, great to have that facility in our community. And then we went on to Canada Day, flipping pancakes and cooking sausages with everyone over at Sobeys. And we had a great turnout, over 500 people, which was great to see, and the weather held out for us this year, in the morning at least. And then the July 6th, the grand opening of the new Tourist Information Center at the Shaw House, and the events committee on July 7th. That is it for me.
Okay. Councillor Sherman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 28th, I also attended the grand opening for Inland Steel. On the 7th, all the festivities of the Canada Day celebrations, and it was awesome to see so many people along the streets. On the 4th of July, I attended the Ag Society meeting. We evaluated the rodeo and chucks. What can we do better? What was successes? Just to let you know that on the 21st of July, Gord Banford is still on, and there are tickets available. There are VIP tables also. And to iterate Councillor Johnson's weather request from the guy up above, perhaps maybe we could consider the rodeo grounds as a backup for if Mr. Weatherman doesn't cooperate with us. On the 5th, I had a naming committee with some of council. On the 6th was Shaw Open House. Man, they sure revamped that building. It looks great. And on the 7th, I attended the Wellness Coalition out at the Little Leap Park. And that was it for me.
Okay, thank you. All right, so for myself, I also attended the tour and barbecue at Inland Steel, and I learned a lot in that industry, and we welcome them to the town of Bonnyville, and I'm really happy to have them here. And then on the 29th, I had a meeting with Tourism Alberta, Chris Down. He wanted to meet with me to talk a little bit about some of our regional tourism opportunities that he's working on in the Northeast region. He feels strongly that we have a kind of a piece of the pie that he'd like to help us develop, that being the staging area off Unicor and over at the museum too. So hopefully we continue to build on those relationships and see something come out of that. On June 29th, I attended a virtual meeting with Ted and our Will Creative. We just had a quick rebranding, feedback, regroup, quick little meeting before our meeting with them this week. July 1st, with the rest of council, attended all the Canada Day celebrations. And then on the 4th, I attended a virtual meeting with Public Safety Canada's contract for policing assessment. They had a meeting invitation for all of Alberta municipalities. It was to discuss they are looking to capture some of the information of what's working and what's not working with the policing program in Alberta. They really wanted some feedback and some ideas of how they could better have the policing program here in Alberta. There were about 29 attendees, including Mayor Miller from St. Paul and Mayor Copeland from Cold Lake. July 6th, congratulations to the MD. We attended the grand opening of the Shaw House. I think they did a really good job and looking forward to what they build out there. And then July 7th, also attended the launch of the fitness trail along Jesse Lake with the Bonnyville Wellness Coalition. And that's it for me. Councillor Blanchette.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. June 28th, they had union bargaining with Lakeland Lodge and Housing, followed by the Inland Steel Tour. June 29th, I signed checks for Lakeland Lodge and Housing. July 1st, Canada Day festivities. Echo everyone else's comments. Very disappointed in the weather, but such is life. But also, I would echo Councillor Johnson's comments. We could not pull off such an event without so much community involvement. So on behalf of the committee, thank you very much for that. July 5th, I had a union bargaining committee meeting with Lakeland Lodge and Housing, followed by a naming committee meeting. July 6th, the grand opening for the MD's Shaw House. July 7th, fitness trail launch for Bonnyville Wellness Coalition, followed by an events committee meeting that afternoon. Councillor Langridge forgot to mention that he is now chair of that committee, so congratulations to him. And that is all for me.
Thank you. Councillor McAvoy.
I almost feel like a piker after how hard she worked. I went to the Inland Steel open house again. It's nice to see a very well-run business start up in Bonnyville, and I think they're going to be here long-term and benefit the community. And then Canada Day. Pancake flipping, the opening ceremonies, right up until we got rained out at the party of the park. Excellent day, and I'll echo everybody else's thanks to our staff as well as the staff of the Chamber of Commerce and every other organization that stepped forward to make it as good a day as possible with that weather. That's it.
Oh, wow. Councillor Kushner.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. As well, I went to the Inland Steel Tour and Barbecue. Echo everybody's thoughts on that one. On the 30th, I finally finished up the elected officials education program. They had taped it for us when we were at FCM, and I finally went, hey, I better do this. So finished that one up. July 1st, everything went well, except I got to get in better shape to try and keep up with the floats, because other than that, it was good. July 5th, naming committee meeting. July 6th, grand opening of the Shaw House. That was well received as well. And then July 7th, the Bonnyville Wellness Coalition and the workout trail, which I think is a nice little addition to the town, and hopefully people get out there and use it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so 9A, we've got our 2024 budget timeline. I think that's just for information, what we're looking at doing this fall. Nothing new, it's what we do every year. I don't think is there anything you want to add on that, Bill? I don't think so. No. Okay. Business licensing, just our regular report, quarterly report on some of the new businesses. We had one cancellation in the last quarter, but always interesting information to have on hand. And then next we have our Q2 strategic plan update for second quarter. Anything you wanted to mention on that, or no? Okay. All right, so that's for information. And then we have an invitation for the Bonnyville Baptist Church Community BBQ and Tour. It's nice to see they appreciated the donation. If you haven't had a chance to drive out by there and see the work that they've done, they're putting a lot of effort into it. It's great. So much so that I had to go and buy my boys the disc golf set, and they've been spending a lot of time out there. So, but they are having a barbecue, and they're inviting council to come out for a tour of the course and perhaps partake in a game. So maybe we can do I'm not here on the 20th, so I won't be able to go to their barbecue, but if council's available, if somebody's, or whoever is around, if you can attend.
We'll throw out a calendar.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Yeah, but why don't we do a doodle poll on getting together as a group and going over?
Yep, we'll take care of
That's
that.
okay with council? We can do that sometime this summer?
Yep, we'll get that organized for you, Your Worship.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then just Appendix A are council receptions and public relations, just our donation policy. All right, are there any questions for administration? Any comments? No. We do have one item in camera. If I can get a motion to move into camera, please. Councillor Johnson.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you all.